ecosystems. We are happy to see so many of you, over 200 registrations for today, and this really confirms the interest in this topic, and particular in innovation procurement in general. I look so much forward to the presentations and the questions from the audience today. But before we begin, I would just like to mention our housekeeping rules. You have received a set of explanations about how the meeting works, I shortly recall. All the participants take part via web streaming, and only the speakers' mics and videos are switched on. You can interact by posing your questions on Slido, and please identify yourself when you raise a question via Slido. Well, let's go to the objective of today. The goal of an ecosystem approach are to identify and to interact with key innovators, startups, innovators, and academics, and engage them to help develop innovation capabilities. But what does this mean for public buyers? Ecosystem of innovation gives the public buyer a better vision of several issues. Where will the next generations of ideas and concepts come from? How interesting are the innovative development? At what stage the development of innovation is relevant to participate? And what value could the innovative solution create over existing solutions? Who are the emerging players in the ecosystem to watch for, and in the context of supplier market intelligence? And especially, how can a public buyer connect to this innovation ecosystem? So today you will discover what an innovative ecosystem is, the key elements of the ecosystem innovation, and why public buyers need to develop close collaboration with this ecosystem, and how to take the right approach. This meeting is divided in two parts. First, we will have presentations by our speakers, which I will introduce, and the second part will consist of a question and answer sessions. And I would suggest we now go to the first presentation. The first presentation is of Thomas Cotinet. He is the head of the Ecolab of the Ministère de l'Environnement France. Thomas has studied in the French National School of Administration and in Centrale Lille. He was appointed to the DG Trésor French Treasury, French Central Administration for Economic Policy. He subsequently worked as co-chief executive officer of Liberté Living Lab, and an enterprise which mixes entrepreneurship, tech, data, and tackle large societal challenges, including positive finance. There, he was in charge of export strategy and innovation. Before that, he worked for Auvergne-Rhône-Alpes, a regional council directing innovation and research. He also gives classes on innovation in the public. So, Thomas, I will give the floor to you now.
Hello, everybody. I'm very pleased to be with you. You manage the slide? Okay, thanks. So my name is Thomas Cotinet. I am with Nina Stizzi, work on public procurement. I'm responsible for Ecolab at the French Ministry for Ecological Transition. And I will present what is Ecolab. If you can switch the slide. Thanks. So we are a new team. Ecolab was created in 2020. We are located inside what we call the General Commission for Sustainable Development. And our main mission is to accelerate the ecological transitions through the prism of innovation. Behind what we call ecological transition, there are a lot of markets, a lot of fields. So energy, housing, biodiversity, health and environment, mobility, circular economy, etc. It's a huge, huge field for us. And the two specific tools that we are using to achieve this goal is first driving the French green tech ecosystem for a promotion of green innovative solutions created by startup and SMEs. So it's the first main tool we have. And the second one is we host the French laboratory focused on data and artificial intelligence, which serves the green innovation. So this is Ecolab. You have the big picture of our organization. You can switch the slide, thanks. So the first main action that we implement, it is driving the French green tech ecosystem for the green innovation. So it's a national ecosystem, but it's also a local green tech ecosystem, technological ecosystem, private ecosystem, administrative ecosystem. There are several forms of green tech ecosystem in France. And within the framework of these actions toward green tech ecosystems, we encourage innovative green startup and SMEs. We use a label. The label Green Tech Innovation identifies and supports innovative companies that are able to answer to all the key challenges of the ecological public policies. 215 startups and SMEs have this label, and they benefit from the state legitimacy. And thanks to this label, they are particularly attractive, especially for public buyers and investors. This is only a short introduction for this first mission, driving the French ecosystem. You have a link, you can go and see the website, Green Tech Innovation. So if you can switch the slide, please, thanks. And the second mission we have, it's quite different, but there are main connection and very crucial connection. So we are the French laboratory focused on data and artificial intelligence for the French green innovation. So we support some new initiative led by ourselves. For instance, the green data for health, environment data mixed with health data to help the researcher to find a new idea, a new solution on the topic of the impact that environment has on health. So it is an example. And within this project, we imagine new public policies, new action, and behind this new public procurement. We have some other projects who are led by another public actors. And for instance, what we are producing with the Regional Direction of Environment, Territorial Planning and Housing. We are using NLP, natural language processing, for green impact assessment to improve all the green impact assessment in France. And behind this, you can imagine that we need after some public procurement to achieve this. We also are the entity, the public body, which is responsible for two roadmaps, which are both quite new. The roadmap, data roadmap for ecological transition, and the artificial intelligence roadmap for green innovation. You have the link, and inside those two roadmaps, there are several concrete actions. For instance, some action where we have to modernize the environmental public policies, and to be able to implement these modernizations with data, with artificial intelligence, we have to implement some new partnership with startups and with SMEs. That's why we put inside the same public bodies, Ecolab, we put both the mission of driving the French green tech ecosystem and these specific missions on data and on artificial intelligence, which is very useful for the first mission. So this is the big picture of Ecolab that we created last year, and I have a lot of chance to drive this very specific unit. So we can switch, please. Thanks. So now, here, if I start with a focus on what we do for public procurement of green innovations, and the link with all the ecosystem. For us, so remember, all I will develop, it is dedicated to ecological transition. It is the characteristic of my presentation and of our all. So for us, the public procurement has a key role to play in accelerating ecological transition. In the startup nation, the term acceleration or accelerating, it's a buzzword, it's a very fashion word. But to be able to answer to the huge society challenge of the ecology, we need acceleration. So we need innovation and we need public procurement. Why? Because for us, we have to tackle a challenge for all the fields I mentioned, mobility, housing, energy, health, circular economy, etc. And in all these fields, the top leader of the market, the head of the value chain, are public actors. So if we want to be able to transform the territories, to transform society, we need to see how these public authorities, public buyers, be able to accelerate, and to accelerate how? By buying innovative solutions, green innovative solutions. So that's why in all what we are implementing at Ecolab, at the ministry, the public procurement of green innovation is the main topic we address. It's quite specific. There are in the French innovative ecosystem, there are a lot of other actors, very key actors like BPI, Banque Publique d'Investissement, all the regional council. They are responsible of very considerable tools which benefit to innovation. So we don't have to do the same thing. So we choose to position our action on the public procurement because we think it is perhaps the more important topic that will help to really accelerate the answer to the ecological emergency. So that we say ecological transition, but currently perhaps the better expression could be ecological emergency. So, for instance, we have the Ecolabs major event, which is Meetup Green Tech, 4 days, 3,200 attendees, 250 public actors and public buyers, 1,100 startup and SMEs, donc innovative green techs, and 115 speakers. Well, for us, the bottom line is to overcome the difference between public buyers and startup SMEs, green tech, and they don't know each other. There is a problem of mutual understanding. So we insist in all what you will see, we insist a lot on culture and mutual understanding. So this event, 4 days of business meeting, conference, example, we implement it to organize a lot of occasion of meeting between public actors and startups in a very good condition. So that's a first example of our action. So the Meetup Green Tech each year in October, if you can switch. We also prepare and set up some stands, some presence on other events. For example, this week, there is the Salon des Maires. So the huge national event for mayors, for all the territories. So, and on all those events, we do the same thing on Polytech, which is the biggest event for eco-industry and Vivatech. So we bring startup and we encourage them to connect with public buyers, but it is organized, and it's also a way for us to highlight the ministry action and to make the promotion of the green public procurement, because you understood, we think it is one of the main tools of the acceleration of the answer to the ecological emergency. If you can switch, thank you. Another tool we shaped recently within the French ecosystem. It's quite a classic tool, but it is we think it's very adapted to ecosystem action. It is a business to administration repertory of sustainable solution. This repertory is a categorized repertory of 130 solutions to help public purchasers to identify the sustainable solutions. It makes it easier for green tech innovation, labeled companies to sell to business to industry. It's quite classic, but quite usual, but it's very concrete. Thanks to this business to administration repertory, this B2A administration, the other public buyers could see that some of their colleagues have already made the choice of the risk, the choice of the innovation. So it's a very effective tool to explain to public buyers why it is possible and why they should do this. Behind this notion of reference, there is also for us the stake of the public modernization. because each time a public buyers, local or national authorities, we will waive a contract with a green tech SME, green tech startup. There will be both again on the impact assessment, again of green impact, but we also achieve a step on the modernization of all these public authorities. So it's quite important for us. We are thinking that each of these collaboration have far-reaching consequences and good consequences for our green subject. So this is the case of the B2A repertory. So if we you can find it on the website. A new project. So what is the French ecosystem of green tech? There is we are sure there is 1,000 SMEs and startups which are the core of this ecosystem, and 5,000 startups and innovative SMEs which are green tech. How can we address them? And specifically, how can we implement more and more partnership on public procurement between all those SME and all those public authorities? We are not a huge team, and it's the same thing in the metropole, in the region. So imagine we have designed a new project, which is a tech and data project, My Green Tech Services. The green tech startup operate in complex technical and regulated fields. Most of those green tech startups are facing the same issues. About what? About finding relevant pieces of information for their activity. So to answer this problem, this new web app is designed, and it will automatically bring project holders information about regulations they might want to know, about subsidies they can ask, about data that could help them, about qualified persons they should meet, and specifically about public procurement opportunities. It should help startups to identify easily innovation-friendly public purchasers, SMEs-friendly public purchasers, and it should help the public buyers to identify startups during the sourcing phase. We want to see all of this be implemented automatically. And thanks to this tool, so My Green Tech Services, the startup, we encourage the startup to argue why they should be considered as innovative and green in regards of legal text. Because so it is quite new. It's our latest new action for the green public procurement and innovation, and it will be delivered in June of 2022. So it's made of a lot of design, tech, and data. So thanks. If we can switch, thank you. In France, we also have what we call the National Sustainable Procurement Plan. It's a 4-year roadmap which sets the steps to reach the ambitious goal of the French government. By 2025, 100% of public procurement will have to integrate at least one environmental clause, 100%. And the innovative green tech startup and SMEs are part of the solution of this great ambition. So Ecolab and Green Tech Innovation collaborates with the service, what we call the service of the green and solidarity economy, to deploy this national sustainable procurement plan. And thanks to our privileged relation with local communities, with local public purchasers, we can help the national sustainable procurement plan to be known by local government. So within the National Sustainable Procurement Plan, there is also an objective of mobilization of the innovation. So it's quite important. So if you can switch. Alors, what another example of action, it is what we call the national network of green tech incubators. We wanted to call it National Network of Green Tech Ecosystems. But we thought that the term of ecosystem was a bit too much techno, as we say in French, expert friendly, but so we call it National Network of Green Tech Incubators. But this network aims to mobilize the green tech ecosystems of innovation and to put all of them in the same network. So what we did last year, and when we set up the first great meeting of this new national network, what was the main and the more important question that all these incubators and ecosystem choose to be on the top of the priority, the public procurement. So after that, we help this National Green Tech Incubators Network to build some concrete action. And one of these concrete action is the Tour de France, because we are very proud of Tour de France in France. So the Tour de France of the green tech public and private contractors. So we have a stage of Tour de France, which shows a market or a technology topic. The first stage was on all the market of sustainable mobility. And the second stage was in Lille in September on the specific market of smart city and green housing. And we are focused and dedicated to a topic, a market, and a territory. And with this territory, with this ecosystem, local ecosystem of innovation, we organize some partnerships, some meeting between public buyers and startups, between public buyers and SMEs. The first step point out that it was the same issues for huge private contractors, private group, OEM. So we connect them to this operation. It's mainly dedicated to public procurement, but we also have some meeting on the specific relation between innovative startup and private group, private companies, because sometimes it's quite the same issue, the same problem. So we have a business meeting, and we also design a masterclass to be able to understand why local public buyers manage to work with one or several green tech startups. So it's a logic of use case. Thanks. And the last main action we implement, it's an experimentation. So we work out what we call the Green Tech Living Lab in Saint-Mandé. We want to foster local public procurement. It's more a logic of both local ecosystem of innovation. Here we have a partnership with 13 local authorities and technological ecosystem of innovation, because there is also the innovation ecosystem of Météo France and of IGN, which is the main national organism on MAP. Both have very huge technological means. They have their own innovation ecosystem. So we try to mobilize both the ecosystem of the territory and the ecosystem of those technological actors. We host some startups in this Green Tech Living Lab. A part of my team is working there, and it's a very concrete action to achieve a first contract, proof of concept, partnership, first relation between the green tech startup we host here and the local authorities, with the support of what we could call a third trusted party, which is the state and these huge technological actors which are located at the same place. So this is quite new. This is the Green Tech Living Lab. It is functioning quite good. So we are preparing to implement it in other cities, other territories. So that's a first presentation of our actions for the public procurement of green tech innovation toward our ecosystem. So you have on our website the presentation of those actions, and also the presentation of the specific case of the mobilization of data and artificial intelligence, which became crucial for ecological transition and startup and SMEs, and also public procurement. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you very much, Thomas, for your presentation and elaborating on the green mission of Ecolab, the role of digital technologies, and the relationship with public procurement as a key role. And now from the green sector, we will jump into the health sector, where Frank Kumli will take us on his journey. Frank leads innovation and entrepreneurship at Basel Area and Business Innovation. Previously, he led commercial innovation practice at Ernst & Young, focusing on developing and implementing innovative business models for pharma and healthcare companies. Before that, he headed business development efforts for health ingredients at Lonza, and as a director of marketing and sales at Cabo and Amix, accompanied its development from startup to multinational enterprise. Frank completed his PhD in organic chemistry at the Université Catholique Louvain and was postdoctoral fellow at the Colorado State University, a sales management degree at University of St. Gallen, I hope I pronounce it right, and an executive MBA at the University of Rochester. Frank, I invite you to take the floor and to give your presentation.
Thank you, Anita, for the introduction, and welcome to this session about activating innovation ecosystems. So I'm based in Basel. As you can see, the picture here is River Rhine. If you look at the far right, you will see Germany. On the far left, you will see Grand Est in France. And in front, behind this blue thing, you will see Novartis, one of the major headquarters of a large pharmaceutical company. So this is what we are activating here in this region. This is really regional activation. And what we do is activation across these different industries that you see on the left-hand side. In the field of biotech, in the field of healthcare, in the field of manufacturing, and we also support entrepreneurship overall. I wanted to bring a first framework, so I'll bring two frameworks in this discussion. The first one is the white we have on the right. No, one slide back, please. The one we have on the right, and this is really about how we go about activating innovation in these ecosystems. It's not magic. I think most of us do the same, but it's here kind of exemplified with building networks, providing these network with the right information at the right time, doing events like we heard just before to help people get inspired to connect, but also we do then a lot of hands-on activities like running projects and very importantly, running the acceleration of startups to create innovative enterprises in the region. And the fifth element is really about bringing companies from abroad to here. This is a different team from mine, but we focuses only on bringing innovative companies from abroad to this region. And they bring about 30 to 40 companies to relocate here to profit and enrich the ecosystem. And then number 6, we run many thousand square meters of innovation space. On the next slide, what I wanted to show, if we can go to the next slide. Yes, thank you. That different industries require different levels of activation, right? The biotech industry is very mature, or one knows how to develop a drug. We don't need so much networks, events, certainly not projects to show how things are being done, but we need a lot of acceleration, helping young entrepreneurs develop their drugs. We need a lot of activation from international markets, and we need a lot of innovation space because you need wet labs, and wet labs are expensive. So we bring all that in the field of biotech. And the two other industries we are supporting, healthcare and manufacturing, are much more innovative industries in terms that they are being reinvented as we speak. And here you need then much more networking events, do real projects, and I'll show you that in a minute, how to do things in real life, a lot of startup acceleration. And yes, we can attract companies from abroad, and you need some innovation space, but less specialized as for biotech. So the first maybe statement I wanted to do, you can activate innovation, but you need to think through which type of industry and which maturity. We'll deep dive in the middle in healthcare on the next slide. These are innovation activity in the field of healthcare. We have a bold mission, shaping the future of health. And the statement we do here, and I stole it from McKinsey, right? If you are in this space that is evolving so fast, if you are not building an ecosystem, chances are your competitors are. It's a private or public competitors because you kind of compete for technologies, others will do it. It's really about an ecosystem play. And the reason for this comes in the next slide. If you will see the next slide, and I think Ramon will agree with that. Healthcare is extremely complex. It's a it's an old industry. This is a picture from the US of the depiction of the healthcare system in the US. Complex, slow, not customer focused, not patient focused, and you could draw exactly the same picture in all healthcare system in the world. So it's an extremely complex healthcare system in which to innovate, but it's also the most inefficient industries of all. And the tech industry has found this opportunity. And I brought 5 disruptors to set the scene. The first one, if you go to the next slide, of course, the tech companies with the Apple Watch, all of you know, right? And you can imagine the difference these people are going to make in the future when you see this example from 2018. So Apple enrolled 400,000 people in a study for to monitor heart problems. No pharma company, no hospital, no public system can do this, right? Enrolling 400,000 people in a study. So tech is there to make a change in healthcare, and they will make a change in a positive fashion. We have to work with tech to make this happen. On the next slide, you see maybe the second disruptor are all the platforms. And we have seen Meta coming now, and this is not just hype, this is real. And we know virtual reality, for example, has very, very profound potential for healthcare, for diagnosis, treatment, and even treatment of disease. So these platforms on which billions of people are already interacting will make another big change for the healthcare system. Number three, on the next slide, and this is less for Europe, but more for the US and maybe Asia. The big retailers have seen the opportunity since a while, but now redoubling efforts, and there is no big supermarket in the US anymore without some kind of medical village. Of course, it is very convenient. We are talking about convenience. Quickly go for a flu shot while I'm going for shopping. That's convenience. So the retailers are capturing a big part of the, I would say, of the healthcare customer base. And the next slide, the fourth disruptor is really insurance. This is really a big trend coming from Asia. The picture on the right, Ping An Good Doctor. This is it's a diagnostic cabin, not manned. It's AI driven to help diagnose disease. Or there is maybe also a telemedicine angle here, and then you can buy your medication just in the vending machine next door. On the left side, big experiments also in Thailand with insurance, pegging the price of the insurance to the way you manage your disease. The better you manage, the less you pay insurance. Pay as you live is also coming now to healthcare. And the last one, and it's probably the biggest one, it's really the patient. For the first time, patient since maybe 5 to 10 years has a word to say. What I'm saying is that the industry is transforming very, very fast. And on the next slide, you will see the only way to tackle this is this, right? We need to be able to work in ecosystems. And ecosystems is a completely different way to work and to do business as we were used to do it in the past. In the past, we would do one-to-one businesses. Now it's really one-to-many. If you want to launch anything, for example, in healthcare, you will need to engage a whole ecosystem of players in your innovation and in your business model. And this is really, really hard to do. And this is what we are enabling. And of course, the big guys have understood this. If you look on the next slide, you'll see the picture of the CEO of Novartis, one of the biggest pharma companies in the world, headquartered in Novartis. He's going for unbossing, what is transforming this giant company, I think 150,000 employees, to start thinking much more bottom up, to start thinking about what are the real market needs, the customer needs, and develop collaboratively around it. On the next slide, you see then, of course, all pharma companies are going into that direction. When we heard it from Thomas, incubators, accelerators are very important in this environment, bringing startups further on their journey to market, and of course also hackathons. All of these are not jokes anymore. This is now real business practice, and I think that's important to realize also in terms of public procurement. On the next slide, you'll see yes, all pharma companies, we are very close to pharma, have now their own little initiative around doing hackathon, innovation lab, accelerators, incubators, and that's great, right? This helps engage real end market users in innovation. And you'll see the Roche Innovation Center, the Novartis Biome, the Bayer Creasphere. There are many of these things now. But what is important to understand is maybe on the next slide, and this is the second framework I would like to bring. We have seen on the left-hand side, yes, you can activate innovation by doing these 6 elements. But on the right-hand side, you then see what it takes to start doing real stuff, right? And if you go on the next slide, it's bigger. The point I want to make here is really when you see on the right-hand side of the slide, this is all what the external world can do, right? You can have hackathons, accelerators, incubators, you can co-develop solutions with external partners, but you don't have to forget on the public side or the private side, the left side of this graphic, the internal focus, that's your job, right? There is no innovation happening if there is no innovation happening inside of the entity that will absorb the innovation. So do you have your innovation trainings in place? Do you develop communities of practice of innovation? Do you have a center of excellence to exchange innovation practices? Do you maybe have your first internal accelerator for your own ideas? Do you have your innovation lab? And what we are saying is only when you do both, right, that you can start innovating in an ecosystem. You need these both sides, the internal and external focus. On the next slide is some of the things we do. I will not go through that, but just to show that we are very hands-on. So we work with hospitals to develop digital solutions to help them how this could look like. We have multiple accelerators in the field of digital health. We work at the interface with hospitals to try to integrate these new solutions in the hospital, and we do some other things. I wanted to bring one example. This is number 4, the Day 1 Health Hack, and I really quickly we started on Saturday for the 3rd year in a row. How do you do a health hack? So on the next slide, maybe this was the announcement of the hack. And the 2nd or the 3rd hack we do in the field of healthcare, it's bringing different innovators around real life problems. We are running this in Switzerland, the biggest health hack that brings together patient champions, partners, hackers, and some prize, of course, to help these ideas to get developed further. What do you need to do a hack? On next slide, you need the real insights is patient champions. So we spend a lot of time working with patients together with the European Patient Association to educate patients, to talk to techies, to talk to the rest of the world about their real needs, and to be able to talk about this representing a larger amount of patients just as opposed just to themselves, that we can create then real solutions around these patients. We bring them on the next slide partners, which are very important. And if you look at the partners, what I like here, you can see, of course, these are very established. You have the healthcare systems, University Hospital of Basel, Helzana is our biggest insurance company in the field of healthcare. But then you have all these giants, right? AstraZeneca, Novartis, Roche, they want to participate, right? They want to help, they want to understand what is possible. We are supported by Microsoft and Google. It's the same. They are helping us, but they want to learn how to innovate very close to real life problems. And we have some consultancies to help manage the whole activities. You need these patients, the consortium. And on the next slide, you need a process. I'm not going to go through this, but you don't improvise a hackathon. It's a 1-year process with multiple preparations of how this thing will be run. We are here on Saturday. We were at the beginning of the health hack that I could moderate to launch this hacking process. On the next slide, you need some technology, some patient challenges, of course. They are here regrouped on a website that people can access to identify challenges that are of interest to them. On the next slide, you see that these challenges are then articulated by the patients themselves. It is an MS patient, multiple sclerosis patient, who would like a solution that helps him to understand where he stands in his disease on a daily basis. And then around these patient challenges, on the next slide, you need this platform to allow outside hackers to come in. So we have about 150 hackers that participate. You can see we have 15 days left to answer all the solution. And on the next slide, you see then that this is not my world, but this is still my world. So the tech providers participating, Microsoft providing all the platforms, the tools for free because they want to help, they want to learn. Next slide is just as an advertisement also for Google, who supports us. They provide also their different platforms and technologies and know-how. Throughout these 2 weeks of the hack, they are with us to develop those solutions. And then the last slide of this little example is the hackers themselves. This is on Slack. This is where the hackers communicate and develop the solutions together with these tools based on then real patient needs. So I just wanted to run you through an example on how we do this in real life. So the next slide is if you want to participate, take a screenshot of this or log in healthhack.solutions. I mean, everybody can participate in any way, so you can join. This is for free, of course. You can get inspired, and if you want, you can also help develop these solutions about these 11 patient problems that have been selected for this year. Voila, I think the next slide is my last, and this is what it is. And I stole it from Lean Startup. The industries are evolving very fast, and it's not about one-to-one business relationships anymore. It's about activating ecosystems. And this is hard to do. It's related to cultural differences, new methodologies, and it's really about getting out of the building. And this is really hard, and all of us are learning this from a private, public, and even startups. We need to get out of the building and get there to collaborate. And it is the point I wanted to make about innovating and activating innovation ecosystems here in our region. So thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you very much, Frank, for this presentation and explaining us the very fast pace of innovative companies and how they operate in complex systems. It's very clear that the public side needs to catch up with this. And when we ask to innovate for innovation, apparently we will get very quickly the feedback back that we also need to innovate our own organizational processes. Thank you very much for these insights. Now I will go over to another example of healthcare, which will be presented by Ramon Maspon. Among activities in the last 9 years, he has been leading the programs of procurement of innovation and value-based procurement. Ramon has more than 20 years experience in hospital and medical innovation and more than 20 years of experience in international funded research projects, mainly EU projects. He has held positions as EIT KIC, Health Project Officer, Director as Strategic Projects Unit Director of BioCat, as Strategic Planning Director of Granola City Councils for 6 years, and as Director of IALE Tecnologica, spin-off company of the Polytechnical University of Catalonia for 10 years. I will give you the floor, Ramon. Please take the floor.
DG Grow for giving us this possibility of share this presentation with all of you. It's quite easy for me to go on with the frank approach, because I'm thinking that we are sharing some of the main ideas. Just some corporate information from Aquas. Aquas is Catalan Agency for Health, Quality and Evaluation, and it's a public agency owned by Catalan Ministry of Health. For the last 20 years, Aquas has been helping and coaching hospitals for fostering innovation activities. And for the last 10 years, we have been coaching and helping them and acting as catalyzers of all related with value-based procurement and innovative procurement projects. But before to go to my first slide, I like to share some ideas that Frank, I think that Frank advanced in his presentation. Is quite clear that before the pandemic situation, we were in a perfect storm situation, and after the pandemic situation, all this storm situation has been accelerated, and we are still in a perfect storm situation. Never before so much innovation in the funnel of companies, of research centers, but at the time, never before so little money for adopting and adapting this innovation. I also agree with Frank that current business models will change radically in the next 5 years, and for sure, ecosystems will be the main protagonists of this change. So, the health of the future will be a model of interconnected health innovation ecosystems. So then, the key question will be how to take advantages of the full potential of these ecosystems for all the actors involved in the ecosystem, how all the actors could benefit from this momentum of ecosystems in order to achieve progress, for example, in their business model, in their value proposition, and how to advance in the sector. So, related with this approach, what is quite clear is that in the ecosystems value propositions, improving patient health experience will be the key success factor. Taking care of this idea, if we want to reach different results in our innovation ecosystems, we have to try different approaches. No reasons and no excuse for trying different approaches. It's not a mood, it's not cool to try to do different things. It's a need to have the possibility to carry out different kind of projects. And in order to try to define the future of our healthcare innovation ecosystems, I think that at least it exists 7 keywords that we have to keep in mind. First of all, strategy. Second, innovation. Third word, patience. Fourth word, data liquidity. Analytics, the fifth word, evaluation, and new payment models. If we consider ecosystems, it's quite clear from the theoretical studies and approaches to ecosystems that it exists 5 forces. First force, what it's called the force of attraction. Talent attracts more talent. It means that suppliers attract more manufacturers. Research center attracts innovative companies. Innovation attracts more innovation. Second driver of the ecosystem is the force of information. It means that tacit knowledge is transmitted in the proximity of different actors. So personal relationship, communities of practice accelerate all the process of flowing information within the framework of ecosystems. New technologies, new business plans, new market flourish in the ecosystems. Third force related with interaction. The highest the possibility of positive interactions, the best the results and the outcome reached by the ecosystems. Fourth related with the rivalry in ecosystems. And finally, the last one is quite important from the procurement side, is all related with the force of anticipation. The interaction with the high-tech demand society with sophisticated markets and the use of sophisticated public procurement in the end anticipates the future. And I think that this point is quite clear, is a key point related with the ideas of how the ecosystems is impacting the competitiveness approach of countries. If we are taking care of the competitive approach of countries, I'd like to share with you some ideas coming from World Economic Forum and Global Competitiveness report that has been publishing every year since 1979 by World Economic Forum. Every year, Global Competitive Report gives us a photo about what matters for long-term growth. It informs us about policy choices, help us to set up economic strategies and monitor progress over time. This global competitive index framework is organized into 12.
Ramon, can you move your mic a little more to your mouth? Then we hear you a little bit better, yeah, like you did before. Thank you.
Okay. Yes. Sorry. Okay. These two main drivers of the index, they call the pillars. These 12 pillars mainly put a premium on the key actors of the fourth industrial revolution, that is human capital, agility, resilience, and innovation. And among these 12 pillars, I'm interested in focusing in two of them. First one related with institution, second one related with innovative capabilities. If we focus in the institution pillar, what is extremely important is all related with government long-term vision and government responsiveness to change. If we focus in the pillar of innovation, then multi-stakeholder collaboration or buyer sophistication are the two key factors. So the two main words in all related with competitiveness is related in the end with strategy, multi-stakeholders collaboration, and buyer sophistication. This is clearly the main ideas of innovation ecosystems. And it's quite clear from our experience and from our point of view that all related with buyer sophistication is one of the key success factors of innovation ecosystems. Taking care of this idea, 7 years ago, we, as Aquas, mandated by the Catalan Ministry of Health, began to work in all related with innovative schemes. Next slide, please. And it's what quite clear is that healthcare innovation, and Frank, outlined this point, that healthcare's innovation ecosystems are clearly expanding. New knowledge and new agents from other sectors land in the healthcare sector. Google, Apple, Amazon, Airbnb, car industry, new knowledge and new agents from other sectors are landing in the healthcare sector. At the time, new knowledge and innovations, dissemination models also coming from other sectors. New business models, new reimbursement schemes, and new tools for fundings. We as Aquas are following, for example, fintech, insurtechs, regtechs, because they are providing us with with new business models based on coupling and uncoupling activities that disrupt retail, telecom, or logistics, for example. So, in our procurement strategy, from an ecosystem point of view, the dialectics need solution, clearly more sophisticated, replace the dialectics product price. And this goes finally a replacement of the customer-supplier relationship by a value partnership. We need to know who is creating value in the ecosystem, how is this value created, when is this value created, what value is sought for in a partner, what value are we offering to the partner. So we need to answer within the framework of the ecosystem, we need to answer all these questions. Let me share with you just a question. What do you think that it generates more value to the health systems and to a healthcare innovation ecosystem? To procure a knee implant selected from a large database through a procurement platform, or to ask for a solution that allows you to pay for the number of steps that a patient is going to walk a year after being implanted with a 3D printed personalized prosthetic knee? It's quite clear that the second approach is clearly more innovative, more interesting from the point of view and the ecosystem than the traditional, less sophisticated procurement schemes. Next slide. Let me go on before to go to the end of the presentation with two examples of the projects that from Aquas we think that seem representative of what we are talking about. First project is anti-superbugs projects. You will probably anti-superbugs is a pre-commercial public procurement granted by European Commission. Aquas is coordinating anti-superbugs, and I'm sure that you will probably think that, well, okay, it's another PCP funded by European Commission. Okay. You are right. The main objective of the Superbug is to support R&D activities in the field of ICT solutions for detecting microorganisms that could influence, that could be important for all related with the occurrence of hospital-acquired infections and the control of the diffusion of these infections within healthcare provider. I'm sure you agree that what a pity that we have been involved working with microorganisms and not with a virus for the last 20 months. Next slide. Of course, we can focus only in anti-superbugs as a PCP granted by the Commission. But from our ecosystem, innovative ecosystem vision, the situation is a little more complex. The payer wanted to move forward with the incorporation of the reduction of infections in the contract programs with healthcare providers. Of course, without a feasible technology, it was really impossible to improve the results of acquired infections in healthcare providers. So, the first round in the top of the slide is to have the technology, because the technology didn't exist. So, anti-superbugs will provide us the technology. Then, with RADA, a PPI, Public Procurement of Innovation projects that Aquas is also coordinating, with RADA, we will provide the deployment of the technology. So, from the commercial public procurement project, anti-superbugs, to a deployment of technology project, RADA. After the successful of deployment, round 2, the payer will be in conditions to incorporate all related with reduction of infections in the contract programs with healthcare providers. And what will happen later? The healthcare provider will ask companies not for a product for the control and identification of microorganisms, but for a solution for reduction of infections. That is a service from a product in the first round to a service in round 3. And all this process managed by the payer institution within the scheme of the innovation ecosystem. Next slide. We are also having this experience in other areas. The first one, for example, is cardiovascular area. And from Aquas, we have been involved in PCPs, in PPIs, related with pacemaker, related with implantable defibrillators, related with pacemaker, related with aortic stenosis approaches, related with mitral valve. We are also reproducing these schemes of ecosystems and different actors involved end-to-end in all the clinical journey for a stroke. I'm sharing with you the idea of a stroke. It's similar to anti-superbugs and hospital-acquired infections. One step ictus projects which allows patients to be treated more quickly. I'm not sure if you know that in a stroke, every minute is extremely important. For every minute that is lost, 2 million neurons die. So with one step ictus, one of our public procurement of innovation projects, we have managed to reduce the start of thrombectomy, that is the main intervention related with ictus, by up to 20 minutes. Which implies that more than at least 30% of patients have a better functional prognosis 3 months after hospital discharge. Then START projects also involved in this ecosystem approach in the clinical journey. The START project is based on the implementation of a new model of care for people surviving a stroke, that is after hospital discharge. And the projects consist of redesigning all the care process and applying ICTs to facilitate all related with monitoring of patients and rehabilitation activities 6 months after hospital discharge. Then we are having Harmonics, a new project that is giving us all the information from hospital discharge to the rest of the life of patient. And finally, from the methodological point of view, We are using value, another project that is providing us innovative, interactive solution based on meaning techniques to try to drive all related with clinical pathway. Through value solution, all our hospital will boast value-based healthcare procurement transformation. We are also using the same scheme for oncology. OncoNGS is a PCP funded by European Commission, but we are aligning OncoNGS liquid biopsies PCP project with our precision oncology program that is deployed in Catalan hospitals. So, just in order to finish with this presentation. Next slide, please. From our experience, to talk about key success factor of healthcare's innovative ecosystems, and Frank points some of these issues. To talk about key success factors of innovative ecosystems, it means to get three aligned dimensions. The first one related with innovative culture, strategy, education of the actors in the adoption and adaptation of innovation, multi-stakeholders collaboration in projects. So in this area, we have been involved in several international and EU-funded and regional projects. Appraise, iRaise, Procura are projects based on trying to help stakeholders for adapting and adopting innovation, help to stakeholders to upskill and reskill professionals training activities and professionals activities. Second area related with business models, payment systems, reimbursement schemes, value reimbursement, value-based procurement. This means new evaluation approaches, new business models, new services. It means community of practice. In this area, we have been carrying on projects like Eurifi. We are nowadays involved in PP, projects based on fostering ecosystems through models of community of practice. Frank give us some information related with community of practice, and we hope also Hopkins will be successful in the next months with this idea of fostering innovation activities related with community of practice. And finally, and the last, but not less important, the dimension related with the main drivers related with innovation trends in healthcare sector. Servitization, that it means that what can be a service will end up being a service. Personalization and prevention. Next slide, please. Just three take-home messages. First one related with innovation ecosystems. The health of the futures will be a model of interconnected health innovation ecosystems. Second message, that the key question will be how to take advantage of the full potential of these ecosystems. And finally, the 7 keywords that, from our point of view, will lead all these new value propositions of the health innovation ecosystems, that is strategy, innovation, patient, data liquidity, analytics, evaluation and reimbursement on new payment models. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ramon, for this presentation. I will add that my takeaway from your presentation is the need for experimentation in different approaches. And governments need to have long-term focus and strategy to create these ecosystems. And you taught me a new word, which is bias sophistication. We need to develop that. Okay, so all the speakers, thank you a lot for these very interesting presentations. Right now we will launch a poll through Slido. I invite the audience to answer the question through the poll, and hope everybody can connect to Slido. You see here the hashtag where you can connect. And while we are waiting for the outcomes of this poll, I would like to ask the three speakers a question. And my question would be, the presentations that you give, would they be also true for other sectors? And maybe the second question is, who exactly in public buyers should address the responsibility for creating this innovation ecosystems? So I would invite Frank first, then Thomas and Ramon to answer these two questions for the audience while we're waiting for the Slido outcomes. And afterwards, we will also see if there is any questions from Slido that we can ask to you, and that will do. My colleague Carmen will ask them. So, Frank, can I invite you first to answer my question, and then Thomas, and then Ramon?
Maybe I'll just take the first one because I think both Thomas and Ramon are much more at ease with the second. I would say there is no industry that is not being transformed as the ones that we have described, right? All of them are being transformed very quickly, and probably that's the biggest danger, that we don't understand how quickly things change. Even industries such as automotive, insurance, all of them have been radically transformed, right? The biggest automotive player in the world is Tesla, with valuations that are levels of magnitude than any of the automotive player that was leading 10 years ago. So all industries are dramatically changing and very quickly. I think if you want to participate, we need to engage. Maybe that's the first answer to the first question. I'll leave the second to the others.
Okay, Thomas, maybe you can elaborate on who in the public buyers should have the responsibilities to have a strategy for these ecosystems.
Yes, for the first question and the other sector, it's true that all our markets within what we call ecological transition, mobility, energy, efficiency in energy, circular economy, biodiversity, environment, waste, etc. One of their characteristic is to be led by public actors. The first decisions is took by a public actor. So it's quite easy for us if we want to accelerate investment in green innovation. We must manage it toward public buyers. I don't think it is the same thing for all the sector. In ecological transitions, it's in my opinion, it's compulsory to mobilize public purchasers in the ambition of the green innovation, of the green impact. I think it's specific to ecological transition. For the second question, there is several answers, because those innovation ecosystem are various. You have some of them are built around, for instance, a huge academic actor of research and of excellence in science. Some of them are driven by big private companies, as Vinci, Bouygues, L'Oréal, Renault in France. Some of them are initiated by territories, by local territories who invest and shape an innovation ecosystem in order to develop their territory, to create jobs. Sometimes it is the state. In France, the state is very important. So, and there is another actor we did not mention yet, the citizen, and it is a new trend you have now some innovation ecosystem who are citizen pushed. Excuse for the expression. The citizen want to be part of the action, of the solution, especially for health, environment, and ecological transition. And innovation with the data, with app, with co-creation, with co-development, with open innovation is a tool which allows to involve citizens. So sometimes it's an association, an organism of citizens who will initiate the innovation ecosystem. So it's quite various. And what we did with our national network of green tech incubators that we should have called the national network of green tech ecosystem is that we took all those different categories of ecosystem and put them together in the same network. But it's not as that I don't want to answer. It's really very various, and each type of innovation ecosystem has his advantage. Science, more vision on business model, more connection with public policies, proximity with citizens, and citizens are also the user or the customers, you see. And each of these ecosystem, there are a lot of common points that have been developed by Frank and Ramon, but they have on the center of this ecosystem, you often have different types of leader.
Thank you, and Ramon.
Yeah, from my point of view, it exists different possibilities. An ecosystem is a set of capabilities and services that integrate value chain participants, customers, suppliers, service providers, and so on. So, according with the sector, in some sectors, it will be more important the public support and public leadership of the ecosystems. I think that health sector is clearly one of these points, and this situation will be different in other sectors. For example, we from Aquas and from our experience, healthcare ecosystem is built on 3 layers: infrastructure, intelligence, and engagement. Infrastructure layer is foundational, and it's composed of all related with data, all related with managing data, and all these data are mainly public sector controlled. All related then with intelligence layer and engagement layer. Of course, it gives the possibilities to involve all the other kind of stakeholders in the ecosystems. So it's impossible. Of course, we need, at least in healthcare sector, that public administration, whatever the level of the administration, local, regional, government, state level, whatever the level of the administration, it's impossible. It's important, the public leadership, but it's not possible to set up an innovative ecosystems with a top-down approach. We need also to engage all the actors with a bottom-up approach. So it's a mix of the 2 approaches, but at least in healthcare sector, mainly promoted by public administration.
Thank you very much for this elaboration. And we can see the outcomes of the poll. Is it on screen? Yes. Well, there is an agreement among the public that the attitude towards to work with innovation ecosystem is highly recommended. It's not so strange after seeing these presentations that, of course, elaborate why we should work with it. We will now try to go to the questions. And I will pass the floor to my colleague Carmen.
Question for Thomas. To what extent co-creation or co-development is compliant with public procurement rules? The question is raised in particular to the organization of hackathons, for example. Thomas?
Okay. There are rules, very clear, but in my opinion, they allow both co-creation or co-development. The more important is to initiate the collaboration. You see, for me, what is at stake, it is much more the difference of culture, the will of partnership, much more than rules. If you have 2, 3, or a multi-actor ecosystem who wants to go together toward an objective of innovation in green tech, toward public procurement, we will always find the solution. And in hackathon and in other framework, did one a huge one, what we call renovation. You can go and see the website, renovation, for the use of energy in housing. And the more difficult is to initiate the idea, is to initiate the will of the partnership. It's not the rules. We always find a solution. We respect rules, but when you have the will of the huge companies, the startups, the administrations, the researchers, the local public bodies, the European rules of public procurement allows a lot of things. Co-creation. I rarely saw example of innovative projects from hackathon or from collaborative project that did not succeeded because of the rules. Right? It's my opinion. And we have what we call I forget the English name, co-traitance in the public procurement rules. I forgot the English name. It's not good. But for instance, co-traitance, the consortium pool of small actors which are responding to a public procurement or under the threshold. It's a simple way to implement a new solution initiated by hackathons.
If I can quickly build on what Thomas was, if I can build on this just for 1 second, I think I agree with Thomas, right? But I think it's also a journey where we are learning. I see that also here, there are now national programs that drive acceleration programs and hackathons where we really have to start learning what it means for intellectual property, what it means for other things. We will find answers over time. And I agree also with Thomas that at the heart of it is the trust between the partners. But as we engage in these type of innovative ways to innovate, we will also learn what are the right frameworks and orders to accelerate.
Thank you both. A question that maybe I'm going to address to Ramon. Does the collaboration with innovation ecosystem also have an impact on the procurement function of a public organization, in particular on its strategic role? Ramon?
Absolutely agree with the question. One of the key factors I think that I point out is related with buyer sophistication. The idea of buyer sophistication is clearly related with the approach of need solution, with the new approach of need solution, not more based on product price approach, but in need solution. And in order to redefine, to get a right definition, to finally reach a right definition of the need, the collaboration within the ecosystem is a key success factor in order to get more information about the state of the art of the technology, in order to know more about the new business models, in order to know more about appropriability strategies or appropriability schemes, in order to know about how to move from a product to a service. So the idea of relation with the different stakeholders of the ecosystem is clearly a point in order to improve the skills and the abilities of the procurement actors in an ecosystem.
Thank you, Ramon. One final question: how to make public procurement attractive and understandable for innovative companies?
Maybe for me, maybe if I can just take the first one, I would love to have a guide like my colleague here on the panel has described, right? And that Thomas has described, to have some type of guidance or what does it mean to interact with public procurement? I think this, for example, we are missing here in our region, and I found your example. I think this app, a fantastic example, Thomas.
Another way to achieve this is to create a new position for public purchasers to help them to be innovative. If they are building their own innovative project, for instance, to modernize their own functions, their own tools and policies, they are becoming quite entrepreneur, and they are more innovation friendly. They will use the same methods as the CEO of the startup, of the SME. There are a lot of common points for innovation process in the public administration or in companies. So help the public purchasers to become themselves innovative actors. It is a way to help them to be more and more attractive for the innovative companies, because after they will use the same way of thinking, the same word, you see. So we call sometimes this intrapreneurship in administration. So training, open innovation, project management, with a strain toward a considerable shift for the public purchasers toward this innovative way of thinking and of creating. I think it's very useful to work on this topic of attractiveness of public purchasers.
Thank you, everybody. Well, we will launch now a poll to describe today's event. And while the poll is running, I will want to thank all the speakers today for their contributions and helping us understand how important is the innovation ecosystem also for the public procurement practice. The next webinars will be held on 20 January of 2022. It will be about how to manage intellectual property rights in public procurement. Mid-2022, we will have another webinar on risk management in public procurement of innovation. I would also like to mention the We Buy Social webinars. On 10 of December, there is one on human rights due diligence. And on the 24th of February, there will be one on gender equality. I also like to mention our brochures on the Innovation Partnership and the choice of the procedure for innovation procurement. They are all available now in all EU languages. Oh, and also another webinar on the We Buy Social EU is about the work conditions. I would like to present one more time our team, and you can connect to us through our LinkedIn groups as well to follow our work and to follow news, because we will publicize everything we do or what is important through these channels. And now maybe we go to the outcomes of the word cloud. Oh, it's always a bit slow. But I think with this, I would like to thank everybody for their attendance, and just to end this webinar of today. For the ones that cannot watch this webinar, it will be possible to watch it later. The link will be publicized, and everybody subscribed will get a link to the streaming as well. Thank you very much, and have a nice day.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.